Let me see if I didn't do this. That's how I did this. Hashena he besod hadormita. That's where we're at today. All right, let me get this. Find this. Here we go. There it is. Little. There we go. Okay, so it says like this. The brackets at the top. It says Hashena he besod hadormita. And it happens at the first half of the night. Shemistalken and Mochem is their anpin. Neknasim benok, and they go into the nook. So what's this all about? So he said, Vihine inyan Kavanah Hashena. So I guess let's see. This is Test Zion. We could start on the column, I guess. Vihine inyan Kavanah Hashena. In Yanahu Shatzarka Adam the Kavan ki gam be'es Hashena. So you have to think that when you're about to go to sleep, Ovid as Barbaro, that you're still going to be serving Hashem. Besod called Darkecha de'ehu of that pasuk. So it says Chozer of the Indian Risha. So let's go back to what we started by talking about before. Shehiskil le'el le'bar shagabanas besod Hashena. He besod hadormita the zer anpen. It's the same time, or the same. It matches the dormita of zer anpen, and we're talking about nighttime now. So what's the kavanah that you should have then at the time that you're going to go to sleep? So it is that v'hu sheyikaven shechashena he gam came avodas Hashem l'shem shemayim. So it's also avodas Hashem, but this avodas Hashem is that you have to have a kavanah to Hashem shemayim, but that's called darkecha de'ehu. You have to know him. Whatever you're doing, you have to be aware of Hashem's presence. Now he has a little hakdama here that he wants to give us, which I think some of it we know. He says, hakdama the seder hadormita v'chanesira. So let's talk about this. Let me just see where I'm at here. Okay. V'chanesira nakting the bar b'ktsara as seder hadormita v'chanesira. So let's talk about this a little bit. Hinecha noko mede devuka v'achre zer anpen ach ba'ach minachaz the mata shalom. V'ofen divukom kusha kosel echad mishamish ka'ach shel shneichev. So one wall for the backs of two of them. Ve'esachi kusha ondim zun ach ba'ach. At this time that zun are now back mekabel zer anpen as a mochin. The ach, he gets the mochin of the ach. He takes his portion. Now he says a ha'ara, that is a glow from that, seeps through or goes through hamochin the nook derek nekev sheyesh lo b'chazin. Okay, that little part, like we've heard that before. So he says la'achar mekana asis adarmita. So then once this is going on at that stage, so we have a ha'ara going to the nook. She's being built by a secondary light. Behind the shiyotzim kol mochin betoch zer anpen, and then the next part is dormita, is where all the mochin leaves zer anpen. Vayidei kain no felas alav v'chin shenu. So then he starts to go to sleep. That's the time. That's causes sleep. V'hashina nikras dormita b'aramis. I just I think this is wrong. It's called dormita, I think, in Latin. Because the word for sleeping in Spanish is dormir, and which is the same word basically, different ending. And also in Italian, look this up too. It's dormire. So it's the dorm. That part right there has to do with sleep, and I so believe it's not Aramaic. But on the other hand, I've seen other places. The Romans did affect Aramea or Babylon, that kind of area. They conquered all the way out to there. They had some influence, so maybe this picked up that language over there. Maybe it's possible. But at any rate, it is a Latin word also. So since the mochim is what really keeps zer anpin alive, so he falls asleep. Now, I guess doesn't mean that he's just, has to do with his life, but there's always some left. We had seen previously, there's always a rishimo that's still left behind. And that means that the chiyus really leaves the body to a certain extent. Well, you fall asleep. But mochin and nistalken betoch zer anpin, those mochin that leave zer anpin, heim shnei tzalmei mochim shehoyubo, they actually represent two tzalmei of mochim that were inside of him. Shehem tzalim amochin de yasos, but tzalim amochin de devuna. So that's what goes in. Those word goes in, and that's what goes out. Now they leave zer anpin. That is the two tzlamim that we're talking about, one for yasos and one for devuna. And he says that instead of Abba Ve'ima because he wants us to know that the extension of Abba Ve'ima is what actually enters into Zer Anpin, which was Yisrael Sabat Tevuna. Nishar Tzalam Amochan de Yasaz La'amod al Gabe Rosh Zer Anpin Besof or Makiv. But Amochan de Tevuna Nignasim is Pashta Besoch Hanok de Zer Anpin Be'open Shemekabelas Ata Hanok as a Mochan Shalo Shalo al Derek Zer Anpin, so she is now becoming independent. Ela mit Tevuna Atzma, but she gets it from Tevuna itself. But the Chidach Keshakib the Rebbemuchim Zer Anpin Choy Zer Rak Ha'aras Amochan. He wants to let you know it was a secondary light. It's a glow. I'm just using the word glow. It's a glow that permeates through that opening in the back of Zer Anpin. But now she's actually getting the real essence of that light, the light itself. And so now she's getting the mokin not through the path of Zer Anpin. So we saw Gavar and she still doesn't. She doesn't need him anymore. She doesn't have to get that light as a result of a transfer through the body of Zer Anpin into her. She's getting it directly. Devuka and love kadei l'kabam b'menu esa aretz hamochim ma'acharav like it was for the chayin and the seres b'menu. So therefore, she is able to become independent, and she's going to remove her. So she's going to be removed from Zer Anpin. La'achar mekan olim Zer Anpin v'nuk the hechalkus abba v'ima. Then after that, the zocher v'nuk. Now they're independent. The first thing that happens is that they go up into their palaces. Let's say it was a concept of usually I thought they said like the heich, like the bosom of Abba Ve'ima. They go up, they rise up into the bosom of Abba Ve'ima. Abba Ve'ima mizdavgim, and there takes a yichud takes place there because that's a safe place. That's the place where the shefa is right there, and they have some protection. They make a yichud. Because why? Because looking at themselves, they're still in that same situation like ach ba'ach. But understand that that's the position from which they go. In other words, they still, I guess he means to say, even though she's separate from him, but she's still her backside, she has her own backside now, is still facing his backside. So in order to put them together, they go up into the bosom, so to speak, of Abba Ve'ima, where they have a yichud, and he wants to let us know. But yichud, any yichud, has to take place panim b'panim, and that can happen at that location that is this higher level of spirituality. So it's not the zivug, the complete zivug of their bodies face to face, but it's not the zivug for giving birth. And we went into that, and this is like a review also. Shabo nosen zer anpin anok as bechinas arucha the shadi babaylu. So that there he's able to prepare herself. We went through that, making her into a kli that's able to be receptive of the shefa that's going to come in the bigger zifra, that is the yichud down below upon him. Umisaken ba as bechinas kli yisod shalah v'hu hachana b'kedei. This is a preparation for the purpose shetuchol loholid bezivug haba, that she could give birth in a later yichud. So after this, they go back, and they go back down to Zon, to their place, Elimakomum, And then they get mochen upon him. So that's a whole story. Just wanted to say it again. Okay, let me see where is number Tes Vav in the Shefa Gavanos. The Shefa Gavanos down at the bottom of the first page of page Kuf Mem Ches. Be over here, and he says number Tes Vav. He says Shetzaraka ala the Kavin ki gam be'es Shena oved as boro besod bekal darkechu de'ehu. That means no matter what you're doing, you have to be close. You have to see him. You have to be have Kavanah that you're serving him. Same thing true at nighttime. Kain isigam b'shulchan aruch. So Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim Siman Reish Lamed Aleph, he says sheyakaven lishan b'shvil lahachlif koach la'avodas Hashem. So you have to go. He says he had this Kavanah when you're going to sleep to. Let me say, shekaven lishan b'shvil lahachliv. Why are you going to sleep? To change the koach la'avodas Hashem. That you're going to do something there. You're going to have that in mind. That's what you're going to serve Hashem then too. V'zechah she'am b'kol darkechu de'ehu. Behind the shegam as in yonim hagashmim ya'asa d'shem shemaim. So even if you're doing something which is very physical because you're tired, he says this is also a kavanah that you're going to serve Hashem here. But here the Rav is saying something additional to the Shulchan Aruch. Why? It's like a medium. So the person would have the strength to be able to learn later on. But the Rav is coming over and he's adding something else onto it. Shatz and Mashina, he gam came about his gavoa la'atzma. So the first one is the idea that you need to sleep in order to be able to get up, let's say at Chatzos, and be able to learn Torah at that time. Shatz and Mashina gam came about his gavoa la'atzma. V'keven the poil ayada tikunim gedolim, and since through this a great tikkun is taking place, b'olamas al yonim. We see the same thing when you're talking about eating. He says over there, that's a gavoa. So this is a high level of service. That base achila misakin adam es nitzutzas kedoshim hashechet b'maychalim. So this is the kavanah when you eat, that you have to understand that in kosher food, there's a certain level of kedusha that you'll be able to pull out and ingest into yourself. So this is something like that, there's actually another kavanah. Let's go on to the next page. Let me get a little drink here so I'm running dry. So he says on number Yud Zayin on page Kuf Mem Tes. So he says, so you should think of yourself as you are the zer anpin, that is, you're the male aspect. That on that moment that a tardema is falling on the person, going into this, and again, this is a Latin word because it goes along with this Spanish word tarde, which means afternoon. So he says, "Am'atzel tardema v'yashin," that he has this tardema, which are tarde also means late. So he says, "Asher hipil alav ham'atzel tardema v'yashin." So he has this tardema that comes of it. Try to think if this is really the same word as dormita, because if you switch the words around, you're going to get the same wording, and you're going to get some kind of dormant. The same words or the letters are there. So the shena, he's so this stalkus emochin b'menus, which is that secret. Kashacholik liyisha. Now you're going to lay down. Yikaven shecha adam b'tachton. That's you or me. Who connected bechina zer anpin, that we are aspect of their anpin. V'chashena sheyashin, who connected mashem istalkim homochim zer anpin, and that's that whole idea there that the mochin are leaving zer anpin. That's your kavanah. You are a representative, or I say that you are actually part of the template or the hologram, Zeir Anpin, the person falls into of sleep. Now let's read a little bit more. I'll read it out. So we know that Shalmokim Shalo Muluvashim Toch Nai De'ima. Now we know that the Nai De'ima enters into Zeir Anpin. Because and whatever came in for the Nai of actually means Tevuna here, it leaves him. The Yatzva Niknas Beresha the Nukva the Zeir Anpin, and they leave and they go into the head of the Nukva directly. Hashem as a tzala, that Hashem builds the tzala. That's that tzala that we were talking about, which represents the nook, which was attached on the back of Zeir Anpin. It was fed through Zeir Anpin, but now it's getting built up by itself. Notice how mochim mispashta b'Zeir Anpin, boim b'levasha b'kli ranai de'ima, which is tevuna. Actually, we mean to say tevuna. Ve'estes stalkos amochim b'shasa dormita. So when those mochim leave at the time of the dormita, so all the mochim leave, and also the aspect of ima that went into Zeir Anpin also leaves. The nai the ima malvishim, that which covers over, or is a receptacle for those mochim. Malvishim become niknas the mochim ima kelim, and then after that the mochim together with their kelim, malvishim which clothe them. Mispashtin b'socha nook, and spread then into the nook. V'al nivnes hanuk, and this is how the nook is built. V'inyan kinesis amokim el nook nirmez b'pasav v'yiva l'shem elokim elotzala. So that same talk, which is talking about Adam and Eve, and how it is that she is removed from him and she becomes separate. Shal mokim b'nikraim havaya elokim. The mokim, now he says on the side that the mokim are called Havaya Elokim, which means right side, left side. Niknas and Mabonim as parts of a nook on Nikrut Tzala. They build the nook, which is the concept of the Tzala. And I think there's one more here, which we're going to do. V'inyan v'ayin b'drash shofar v'drash anisira. Now in Rosh Hashanah you get this in spades. You get a very deep look over there at the Nistira process, and the Asib Asarasi Tshuva, and it goes through the whole 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Kisham Nisbar Mitas Inyan Zeh, that's where you really find the kernel of what's going on, the detail of it. Bedrashi Rosh Hashanah Nisbar Inyan Zeh, so that idea is explained in the Drashim of Rosh Hashanah, but Yosubir in a more clear way. That we find Zeir Anpin bein mochin the Abba, which is Yasas, and bein mochin the Ima, which is actually mean Tevuna. The V'shasa dormida b'stalkin b'zecha b'kol mochin bein the Abba bein the Ima. All this we know. V'chamochim and niknase v'nok heim rak mochin the Ima, but the only part that goes into the nook is the mochin the Ima. Avach the mochin the Abba b'do niknase melanok, they don't go into the nook. Ela acher yitzias of Yetziah sechem b'Zeir Anpin, but then after they leave Zeir Anpin, heim nish'arim la'amod al gabi rosh Zeir Anpin b'bechinas oros makifim. They're shining onto the head of Zeir Anpin. V'lacher mikan olam ha'mochen b'sod man. It becomes then the mochen go from this position, and they actually go upward there in the secret of mayim nukvim la'ora zivug partzufim elyonim, to cause a yichud in the upper partzufim. We'll get more of this. There's more things, but let me see what we have now. We have, first of all, let's see if we can do Tes Zion and Yud Zion in the Shefa on the previous page. And it says like this: Sheyukavin ha'adam shuhu atzbacha b'chu b'chinazah d'chura asher hipil alav ha'ma'atzel tardema b'yishan, so that he has now this tardema. Beer, a tardema in Spanish means late or later. So maybe that's how it touches up in Latin to the concept of dormir, which is basically, as I said before, the same letters, with slight exceptions. Bir Hashem and Sas on the seventh Shecha Adam Matachtom who connected Zeir Anpin Kashem Shal Zeir Anpin Kolo Mima Uben. That is, it has motion that are coming from Yisrael Saba, and Tavuna Shehem Bechinas Dachar V'Nuk, which is, we also know this, that Ma'u Ben, actually Ma refers to Zer Anpin, and Ben refers to the Nukva Zer Anpin. Kach al dereg zecha b'nishmas ha'adam atachdom kolula b'machu b'ben. Don't forget that. V'yakavanah adam. So what is it? That this is inside. So he's saying this is inside of you all the time. You have, that is at this time. V'yakavanah adam sheba'odecha b'yashin. The as is the seer. So you should have this. This is the kavanah, the whole kavanah that you should have. That you're going to sleep, and what you're going to do sheba'ode yashin. Those aspects of the neshama are going to leave him. And when that leaves, now he's not saying that this causes both of them to leave, but he says Hama Shabo Shukut Sada Dachar. It's only the Dachar part. It sounds like this. That actually makes him go to sleep, because the female part, the ben part, really doesn't belong to him. It goes to her, would go to her. But no dormit, and as a result of the male aspect leaving, that is the ma leaving, he falls to sleep. So then that part, the other part. So I'm trying to focus. I think that what he's saying is that he says it's the male aspect that leaving Zer Anpin that causes to fall asleep. But meanwhile, the female aspect, which is Ben, leaves at the same time. The Haida Ben shall nishmaso, that is, that part, the Ben, is going to go into the Nuk. In other words, male, you and the female counterpart, that is let's say your wife, going through the same thing. Because the male aspect, he says, correspond to zun, the nekuda revius on the fourth nekuda. I don't know what that means. Now, I'm not sure I know this. If you do, let me know. So there, now we're settling. Madura benashim gam came nohed inyan shena belayla. Why does she have to fall asleep before, after, as well? Since what's happening is that the mochin are leaving him. The chalo lechora im ne'emesh shehem keneged nuk elyonis. So if we say that we're talking about the nuk of Etzilus, azai adarabba ba nekdasim atacha b'mochin belayla v'chanena yeshena. So she's not sleeping because all the mochin are coming into her. Beam came ech noheg inyan shena benasha. So then why should there be an inyan of shena if we say that the mochim of the male aspect, which is the ma, leave, and that's what causes Zer Anpin to fall asleep, but she's getting the ben directly. Why should she be sleeping? The fi mashrin is bar meyushav. So he says you can understand according to I don't know the fourth nakuda and the fifth nakuda. I don't think I know that idea. So number Yud Zayin, but that was the answer. So now we go to number Yud Zayin, v'niknas b'reisha the nukva the Zer Anpin, and they go directly into into the nukva. Hikshach Hashem and Sasso, another problem. Hashem and Sasso says ma zeh shekosav eram shemispashtim amochim b'rosh anok. V'halach of his pashtus he calls spheres anok, not just into the head, but it's everywhere. In other words, it flows from the head all the way throughout the body of the nuk, because of the shemek of the nozzle. So maybe what he really wants to say here is sheniknasim b'leya. That's what they want to say. Ha'omedes al gabe rosh Rachel, which is up above the head of Rachel, who is the Akaris of bias and the real, let's say the main nuk. K'mavor lochalon she's pashas of mulchan benuk, he be parts of Leah. And that's called the Resha of the Nukva, that it all goes into. There's a lot more of that story. Let me see if there's something else. There's a small piece on Yud Tes, and I'm going over time a little bit here, I'm sorry. But I want to at least get to this part. Number Yud Ches down below says as follows, down at the Shefa Kavanos. He says, so this, what we're talking about, this sleeping, is going to extend until we get to the nighttime. Over until it gets midnight. Now, this is a big idea. that we have previously seen. V'az kavar nivnes hanukva v'nisaken v'nisakna. V'az chachosrim hamochen the mekoma b'reisha dezer anpen. And then after she's built up, the mochen go back into the reisha dezer anpen b'chatzis alaylo. So this happens now at chatzis alaylo. So this is where we're getting into the area which we discussed in the back of the book, where this is the time at chatzis alaylo to say the birchus hashachar. And he has a yichud with the nukva at that time. So he says, so going on, be'inyan hamavur b'drashzeh, and he's going to get into this a little bit more and try to help me out a little bit. Shabalayla na'asis nesira b'leah, that nighttime what's going to happen is going to be see it not with Rachel, because Rachel has gone into Bria. He says that this, the major part of Rachel at any rate, that is, I think maybe her kesser remains. He says I think maybe a difference of opinions on that. Shabalayla na'asis nesira b'leila, so there is an asira that takes place not in Rachel but in Leah. V'lachar mikam b'chatzas alayla, now you hit chatzas alayla. Na'asis zivug de Yaakov v'Leah, that's that yichud that's taking place between Yaakov and Leah, which is hakdama, or a hachana for the yichud that's taking place in the morning. We learned that previously. So Yuan b'miluyim, so in the back of this sefer, which we learned and saw through it clearly, Be'ezah Partsufim Mayri talks over there, what are the Partsufim that we're talking about where this yichud is taking place?